everybody, Trevor here. This video is a late birthday present to Valentin Sparkle 16. He wanted me to do a mini review of a close shave for a duck, but I insisted that I should add that episode into a top video on duck episodes, which is today's top 5. You see, Duck, real name Montague, is a Great Western Pannier tank engine introduced in Season 2 and is a fan favorite amongst fans. And to be honest, I like Duck too. I thought he was pretty cool. Let's hope they don't bring him back for the reboot along with Oliver and Toad. Otherwise, their characters would probably get ruined by Mattel's executives. Now for this list, not will I include a close shave for Duck, but I will also add a few CGI episodes starring the character. While there are a ton of Duck episodes I like, but I'm choosing 5 just for the sake of this video. Oh, and before we start, I just want to wish Valentin Sparkle 16 a very happy belated birthday. I'm glad his birthday went well recently. Now with that out of the way, let's begin, shall we? Coming at number 5 is School of Duck. This is one of my favorite episodes of the Big World Big Adventures era, and it is about a school that was torn down by a storm, and Duck had to find something for their new shelter, which would be a coach. He asked the other engines like Gordon if they could lend him a coach, but they refused. Duck was about to give up until he met an old wrecked brake coach named Dexter, not to be confused with Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory. Dexter wanted to be the coach for the job, but Duck said no because he thought he looked too old and broken down to be the new shelter for the school children. He was about to give up again until he remembered Reg's wise words, repair, recycle, reuse, which gets Duck to fetch Judy and Jerome so that he could collect Dexter and take him to the school grounds for him to be restored into a new school shelter for the school children, much to Dexter's delight and gratefulness. In my opinion, this is one of my absolute favorite episodes, not only from Season 22, but in the Big World Big Adventures era in general. I thought Mark Morahan's Liverpudlian accent for Dexter suited him perfectly, not to mention that his new blue coat of paint makes him look fresh and new. Oh, and by the way, I bet this episode was inspired by those Thomas Magazine stories where engines find and collect lost coaches and restore them in different ways, which explains why I love this episode so much. Coming at number 4 is The Thomas Way. This is a Season 17 episode where Duck and Thomas had to escort a broken down Harold to the Sodor Search and Rescue Center to be repaired, but Thomas wanted to show Harold all the sights of Sodor, much to Duck's disagreement, in which he explains that there are 2 ways of doing things, the Great Western Way or the wrong way. But Thomas insisted that they should take Harold to Nafford Station only for it to be a waste of time. This leads Duck to not listen to Thomas until they went through a tunnel which damaged Harold's blades. After another scolding from Sir Topham Hatt, Duck apologizes for not listening to Thomas, and then they agreed to work together by having Thomas lead the way to the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. After the job was done, Duck learns that there are 3 ways of doing things: the Great Western Way, the wrong way, and the Thomas Way. So in my opinion, the Thomas Way is my second favorite Duck episode when it comes to the CGI series in general, and one of the best in Season 17. My favorite part was the stock photo of Duck's original model photoshopped in a brown and white photo, which was shown at the beginning. I suggest you give this episode a watch. Number 3, Duck and the Slip Coaches. I remember talking about this episode in my 3-part video series about my favorite picks for the best Andrew Brenner episodes, and I'll try to keep it brief here. This is where we get introduced to the Slip Coaches, who used to work on the Great Western Railway along with Duck. They were designed to be uncoupled from the train so that they could slowly stop at the station platform. That way, there wouldn't be any more delays. James overhears this and decides to steal Duck's idea for bringing the Slip Coaches to Sodor. James's plan goes awry when he misuses one of the Slip Coaches by making the rear one bump into him and the other coaches, much to the complaints of the passengers. Luckily, Duck told Sir Topham Hatt all about the situation and that it was his idea, not James's, and that James didn't know how to use the Slip Coaches in the first place. Thankfully, after Duck manages to fix the job, everyone cheers for him, much to James's unhappiness. In conclusion, Duck and the Slip Coaches was my most favorite CGI episode starring Duck, because I thought the Slip Coaches and their designs looked very splendid and feel more like the Railway series in terms of their painted faces. Though I do feel bad for Emily during the majority of the episode since she had no other place to sleep at Tim's sheds that night. But regardless, this is an overall great episode in my opinion. Number 2, All at Sea. I've already made a mini review on this, and I'll try to keep it brief here. This is a season 3 episode where Duck wishes to sail to faraway lands, but then learns that engines are happiest when the wheels are firmly on the rails, as Percy once said. And as I said in that mini review, my favorite bit was the very end where Thomas, Percy, and Duck were at the quay together watching the sun rise up, which I thought was one of the most beautiful shots ever made by the Bridalcroft Company. Oh, and one mistake that I've made is that the final shot was set early in the morning, not in the evening. So props to this user who corrected me. So all in All at Sea is a great way to end season 3, if you discount Thomas and Percy's mountain adventure, that is. And I thought it was really well written. I suggest you give it an honest watch. Now before we get to number 1, I just want to give a few honorable mentions. Duck in the Water. It would have been number 4. Duck Takes Charge. This is Duck's first appearance in the series, and honestly, it would have been number 1. Still, it was a good episode and a good way to introduce Duck. Fish from Season 4. It also would have been number 1. And besides, there was a Season 8 episode of the same name, but in that case, Thomas was the starring role of that episode instead of Duck. Well, in that case, why not call that episode Thomas and the Fish, instead of copying the Season 4 episode title of the same name? And the number 1 spot goes to A Close Shave for Duck. As promised, I would add A Close Shave for Duck on this list, but there's a reason why this is number 1. It's so awesome, action-packed, and intense. Let me explain why. After Duck sadly chuffed to Edward's station, he tells him all about the awful situation with Diesel, Sir Topham Hatt, and the other engines. But Edward assures him that he's not horrid, and so does Sir Topham Hatt. Then he offered Duck to help him with the trucks, which made the Great Western engine very happy. Up the hill, Edward and Duck struggled to get the heavy and noisy Charleston trucks to the top, and when they finally made it, Duck says goodbye and happily rushes down the hill until suddenly they heard a conductor's warning whistle. The Charleston trucks broke free from Edward and chased after Duck, which I thought was the best part of this episode. What's even more intense is that Duck and the runaway trucks almost crashed into the back of James's passenger train, but luckily, they were switched to another track, leading them to crash into a barber shop. The barber was so cross that he put shaving cream all over Duck's face, which I'll admit was pretty funny. Later, Thomas and the breakdown train arrived to save Duck when Sir Topham had arrived to tell the barber that he was a brave engine for preventing a serious accident. After the barber washed Duck's face and that Duck was pulled out of the barber shop, Sir Topham Hatt tells him that he'll be coming home after getting repaired and washed. He also told him that he sent Diesel packing for telling lies in the first place, which made Duck very happy to feel welcome again at Tim's sheds. Thus ends the greatest Duck episode of all time. Overall, A Close Shave for Duck is not only the best Duck episode, but also one of the absolute best Season 2 episodes of the show. I thought it was a perfect way to end the Duck and the Diesel Engine trilogy. I suggest you give it an honest watch if you're new to the original Thomas series. Now let me know in the comment section below on which of these Duck episodes are your favorite. Do you agree with my list, or do you have your own personal preference? And once again, happy belated birthday to Valentin Sparkle16. I hope he enjoys watching this video. This is Trevor Davis, signing off.